Game loaded.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Lessons Learned with your host, Rafael Piñero. I have a question for you, oh gentle viewer. Is there such a thing as a fourth wall when it comes to video games? Now, you probably heard of the fourth wall when it comes to movies and theater and even books. And we use that term also for video games. Anytime a character or the game seems to acknowledge the fact that A, it's a game, and B, it's being played by someone, we say that the game breaks the fourth wall. In a similar situation, for example, a character in a play turns to the audience and winks or even addresses an audience member, breaks the fourth wall. And what is the fourth wall? The fourth wall is supposed to be that invisible film or window that separates the audience from the action on stage. In order for us to accept that something else is happening, its own reality encapsulated in the three walls of a stage or within the screen when watching a movie or something on television, we create or accept the concept of the fourth wall. But there's a problem with that when it comes to video games, and that problem is that what happens on screen is largely determined by the actions of the player. There's interactivity, there's player agency, there's the illusion of control. A lot of games, for example, seek to break the fourth wall through immersion to get the player so involved in the action that they can separate themselves from what's going on. And of course, we have virtual reality and augmented reality, which again, it tries to sort of immerse us in the visuals and the virtual space created by a game. So while the fourth wall is designed to separate the action on screen from us, either through a camera and the time and space it takes between recording of the action and the viewing of the action, unless it's live, or the sort of imaginary fourth wall in theater, the fact that you can control to a certain degree what's happening in a game means that there's really no fourth wall, in the sense that we, the player, seeks to break that wall. We constantly break that wall. Whether or not the game itself admits it, it's a different story. Now, I saw an article in Gamasutra, I was doing some research on this, and they talk about a circle. Instead of a fourth wall, a circle. I would go so far as to say, and I'm going to link to it below, it's more like a bubble. Like the bubble tends to expand or contract whenever it sort of admits that it is in fact a game or not, as the case may be. Like when the characters on screen become aware that there's a player, where, for example, examples about Metal Gear Solid series, especially Metal Gear Solid 2, when they talk about changing controls, etc. But what I think is important about all this is that the fourth wall, as we like to think about in video games, simply is an idea that was ported over from movies, television, and theater without much thought about it. We just decided, well, this is a visual medium, and therefore there must be a fourth wall here as much as there's a fourth wall somewhere else. And whether or not we have a magic fourth wall or a magical circle or a magical bubble, the function of that barrier or that film or that filter, if you will, in video games serves a different purpose than it also serves in other medium, because it is designed to contextualize our actions within the virtual space. In particular, it's designed to create a space where we can both act within the virtual space, but also detach ourselves just enough that we don't become emotionally compromised by our actions. What do I mean by that? A lot of games have combat, and one of the things that you can do in combat is, well, essentially kill stuff. And some games will have you run over people, animals, etc. And some games are even very gory, not to mention also sexually explicit. That is also on the rise. When you have a player acting out what's happening in the virtual space, even though the stuff in the virtual space is, well, virtual, not real, our actions are real. We push buttons, we pull and push levers, we press buttons, we move around a mouse, and the game reacts accordingly. Those acts are very real. Our decisions are real. Our decision-making process is also real. Our thoughts and emotions about what's going on screen are real. But if we come too attached to what's going on in the virtual space, we sort of fall into a Don Quixote type situation where we come to believe that what's happening there is real, and we lose a sense of reality, which is a lot of things that a lot of critics of video games have hurled at video games for a very long time. The fourth wall is supposed to protect us from that, but if the fourth wall again doesn't really apply, then we need another concept both allows for immersion and allows for interactivity, but at the same time allows for that degree of separation that maintains, well, our sanity. So, since I only found one article that sort of disputed the idea of the fourth wall, and the fourth wall doesn't seem to really fit very well with what's really going on in video games, I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to leave the floor open to you, oh gentle viewer, to decide if in fact there is a fourth wall and what function, if any, the fourth wall or any other similar mechanism really plays on games and the interaction of games and the player. As always, if you like this or any video on my channel, please comment and subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you. Good night.